empowered and strengthened as we move together, right? And so many of us come from a wide variety of backgrounds, yet we understand the fundamental need for there to be a real collective awakening, that we're seeing people right here are taking place, doing that awakening work, doing the hard work on the ground, connecting with their communities, and ensuring that they're ready to at any given time to be on point, and again, bringing it through a multitude of ways. Here we have so many people from everywhere joining us. I saw people in the room, you know, that are here from Nigeria, and it's just beautiful. Thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this. That is what Africatown is all about. It really is about this collective being together. And so I'm really excited. All right, I'm also honored here. It looks like we have one of our speakers is ready. So we may go a little out of order because we want to make sure we get folks here and get these messages to you all. I'm elated to be bringing in Majestic Lane. Majestic is Deputy Chief of Staff and Chief Equity Officer for Mayor William Peduto. And in his roles, Majestic leads Peduto's administration's focus on opportunity for all residents of the city of Pittsburgh concerning education, workforce development, safe and healthy communities, and digital inclusion. All of those things are needed across so many cities in our nation. So we thank you, Majestic, for your work. Please join me in welcoming Majestic Lane.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate being here. It's an honor. I want to thank you to Y King and Curtis and all the folks who have put this together as far as the state of Africatown for so many years. It's something that I've just been watching, and it's been an inspiration. When we think about the state of our Africatowns, and that's in America and globally, we have always had thriving communities, right? We've always had spaces that were our spaces and that were inspirations to the world. So for me, when I think about an Africatown, it's a place, it's a state of mind, and it's also a place that's always becoming, right? We're always creating these places. And right now it's just about how do we act collectively to engage each other, right? And to really think about the solutions to do that. And so what I'm going to be speaking on is from a context of a governmental perspective, thinking that what can we do in this time, and what are the kind of steps and keys to be able to accomplish that from folks who are in government, along with working with people in community. Because I think, as many of us know, it's an inside-outside game of sorts, and really identifying what are the goals of the community and the North Star that the community is set for itself, but then also where are the resources and what are the machinations that need to happen within systems. Because I think we all know systems have conspired to harm us. Now we're looking at systems conspiring to help us. So with that, what does that look like, and what does that mean of making sure that systems are conspiring to help us? And how do we make that happen, not just in one place, but in cities all across the country? So the first thing I want to talk about is the blending of lived experiences and data. Now, we know that for a long time, data has been used against us. Data has been used to actually minimize our experiences. And I think we're now starting to see the importance of data being used to help, lived experience being used to help us, right? So while that's important, we have to blend those two, because data and lived experiences give us a blend of the personal and the universal. Right. We know that, what we see around us, but we also know there are trends, and we have to make sure in our community that we are connecting with what are the trends that are occurring that some of us may not see, because we have to be able to deal with the community that we see and the community that's also not being seen and maybe suffering in silence. And it may be data that's showing up to being able to identify issues and also identify positive trends, right? We want to, we're functioning from an asset-based perspective. We know the role of white supremacy, and we know the role of racism globally. But in order to actually do this, when we struggle, we also have to struggle putting ourselves at the center from an asset-based community development perspective. So I think once we blend data and lived experience, we can go from lowest term to highest form, if you will, with being able to figure out what our communities need. Two is identifying regional strengths and weaknesses. And what I mean by that is there are certain elements that explain why cities or communities can function with one thing versus the other. And the important thing is to be able to look at what are the superstructural factors that impact the quality of life for Black people in any particular region, right? We know for so many of us, our families travel to the north and to the west for the benefits of jobs, right? So there were structural benefits that were being accrued by moving to a particular place. In the same way, we know we have now seen a reverse migration of sorts where people are moving back to the south for also structural factors, right? So we have to do a really good analysis of the structural factors in our places, and we have to be able to communicate the benefit factors to systems, right? Like people have to be able to come and say the fact of our transportation system and what it does is helpful to us or it's harmful to us. The job centers and where they are helpful or harmful. The way that resources are given out for small businesses are helpful or harmful. The way that the health powers are used in the community is helpful or harmful. So we need to really be able to look at what are those strengths and weaknesses from a regional perspective so that we can build. And that goes into my third point about that is really looking at the identity of your community. One of the really powerful elements of Africatown is putting a stake in the ground, if you will, identifying and saying, here's what's important. Here's who we are. Here's the population. And people can be in this community, but they know it's this community. But also, when you look at your identity, you start to say, what are we going to specialize in? Are we going to specialize in science? Are we going to specialize in logistics? Are we going to specialize in food? Like, what are we going to specialize in that's actually going to create a holistic cycle and a virtuous cycle for the particular community that we find ourselves in, right? And I think when you do that, then you see the separation of certain places are known for certain things. And when they're known for certain things, they attract people who are known for those things. And then it's a virtuous cycle, but it comes with a community being able to identify how to do that. Next thing I want to talk about is really with the transition from the previous president to the Biden administration. There's a lot going on, and so we're in the beginning of it. And while there's been a lot of talk about the perspectives and the kind of performative elements of the difference between obviously the Trump administration and the Biden administration, there's also a lot of resources coming out. So what I want to talk about are three things that I see happening from the federal government perspective that I think when we're building our Africatowns, we should be thinking about. Number one is infrastructure. President Biden, Secretary Buttigieg from the Department of Transportation, Secretary of the Department of Transportation, they've all talked about the importance of infrastructure, right? And when we look at the history of our communities, we know that infrastructure is often a really large part of what slows down not only human capital development, but also physical development in our communities. So for example, if you ever try to build a building, you know that if the infrastructure around it doesn't work and the pipes don't work and the roads don't work and the phone lines aren't right, it costs so much more to build something, which actually makes it less likely that it'll get built. So we know with infrastructure in our communities is a huge issue, and there are a lot of resources coming out in and around infrastructure. So please, wherever you are, be really think, if you're in the context of an American context, please look at the infrastructure bills that are coming out and look at the infrastructure needs that are happening in your community, and then also be able to work with that and work with your elected officials to get infrastructure money to the community. It's not attractive money. It's not quote unquote sexy money, as they say, but it's the money that will allow other good things to happen when you set that foundation of infrastructure. Number two is going big. Going big means this is the time to be bold, right? From a timing perspective, now is the time to have your perspectives. Now is the time to have your plans and be able to take them and get things done. Because the federal administration and also certain states are really looking forward to being able to set things off in a way that shows that the country is going to get back on its feet after the impacts of the pandemic, and also the impacts of obviously the health elements of that and the economic impacts, compounded as always by white supremacy and racism. So there's a lot of money that will be out to do things. And if you can show that from an equity perspective, how this is impacting Black and brown communities, and then also being able to create economic benefits, it'll be something that'll be a multiplier effect. So please go big right now and partner with other people to do that. And the third thing to me that's a real thing is collaboration over competition. Right? When we think about scarcity, we start to behave differently, right? When we think about collaborating together, and that's economic development strategies, that's human capital strategies, that's health strategies, we really have to, if in no other time, think about what collaboration looks like, because the shocks and the stressors, you know, the constant stressor of racism and the constant stressor of white supremacy, along with the shocks of the pandemic, the shocks of the economic things that are happening, and along with the reckoning of racial awareness, as one may say, has created a situation where we need everything to happen at the same time. It's not a situation where one thing can happen behind the other thing. All of it needs to happen, and the collaboration is really key. So this collaboration is not just in cities, but across states, across the country, and across the world. And the more that we can bring to bear with capital, human capital, and physical capital of a collaboration, and not be caught up in the competition concept of scarcity, in the challenge idea of scarcity, we'll be able to really build our communities and take advantage of this moment and continue to develop these thriving places and thriving communities that center people, that center experience, you know, that center success in ways that our children will build on in the future. So again, it's my honor to be here. I thank you so much to be able to share what I can. I look forward to continuing to build thriving communities with all of you all across our diaspora. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Majestic. That was powerful. And, you know, honestly, one of the things that you said that really struck me is collaboration over competition. We talk about the nonprofit industrial complex all the time and how it makes us have to compete for the small amount of dollars for our projects, our programs, our development, whatever it is we do. But I so appreciate you uplifting that message here today. And that's what we're all here for. It's about the collaborative experience. So thank you again for your work, and thank you for presenting here at the State of Africatown. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys, I'm just elated, and you know, our folks are coming with it today, coming with the energy and the information. I'm excited to bring up our next guest presenter, Coach Dom, as many of you know him, Dominique Davis. Dom has been out here on the streets, changed his life around, and then took it to the next level to make sure that folks and young folks who are involved in at-risk behavior or in gang activity, that they have a new pathway. And with him doing work with the 180 program and then opening up community passageways, Coach Dom has been out here doing some phenomenal work on the ground. I'm elated to bring to the stage Coach Dominique Davis.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you. I appreciate and I'm honored to be here. I appreciate everybody, that's all the other speakers that spoke before me. You guys were awesome programs, awesome work going on around the nation. This is beautiful to see my Black and brown people doing this. My name is Dominique Davis. I started an organization called Community Passageways a few years ago. I did felony diversion. I started felony diversion. I wanted to focus on felony diversion because, like Trey was saying back, I was one of the co-founders of Choose 180, and it was a misdemeanor diversion program. And when we were doing misdemeanor diversion, as we were doing this work, and diverting misdemeanors out of the criminal justice system for juveniles, after a few years of that, I started realizing that that's not solving the gang issue. That's not solving the violence in our streets. That's not solving the poverty and the economic and social and political issues that our community is dealing with. It was just pulling young people out of the system in a light touch way. And I wanted to get deeper. And I wanted to go deeper into the system and start pulling our young kings and queens out that were facing high-end, high-level Class A, Class B, and Class C felonies. And I got told, no, that can't happen, and you can't do that, and that world doesn't exist. And I mean, from prosecutors, judges, nobody, community people, nobody thought that you could actually divert felonies out of the system. But I refused to take no for an answer. And I just started putting in the work and started grabbing some young people that were facing felonies and started putting in the work with them, getting them back in school, getting them employed, getting them doing community work, getting them on youth panels and advisory committees and signing them up for different things. And lo and behold, I was able to get my first kid that was facing 2 felonies at 15 years old, looking at doing some time in prison. I was able to divert his case out. And they threw his case out because of all the work that we got this kid to do. This kid ended up getting his barber's license, graduated high school on time, got his AA. I can just go down the list. He got all these different awards and all that. And so when I did that, I realized this worked. So I'm going to duplicate that. And here we are 4 years later. We've diverted over 300 plus years of jail and prison time off the table for youth and young adults in our community up to 27 years old. And that blows my mind that I can sit here and say 300 plus years of prison and jail time. That's amazing to me. And it started out with just me and a couple of people volunteering. And now we have over 50 employees. I go out, I want to hire the same people that we work with, the same people that came through the program, the people that were in these streets with me and the people that were in the streets for generations after me. These are the people that are the answers to the problem. And I hire the OGs, I hire the YGs, I get them trained up, I pay them a good living wage and healthcare package, and then get them back out here to the community to do this work, to save the community. We are dedicated to saving the community. Community passageways is all about saving the community. And so felony diversion was the start of how community passageways got going. And from that, in doing that work, we grew into, I think we have almost 10 other programs underneath our banner right now, at least 10 other programs underneath our banner. We're working in schools, being proactive and preventive with culturally relevant curriculum that is unapologetically centered around Blackness. We do peacemaking and healing circles. We're starting up BSUs. We were doing all this in these schools, and we engage with the families. And when we're doing that work in the schools, we're trying to stop from having to deal with those kids in the criminal courts and doing any diversion work. So we got to go up the pipeline a little bit. We also do a bunch of other things that I don't have time to get into, but what I will talk about is the latest program that we launched last year, at the beginning of last year, called Deep Dive. When I came to the state, Africatown State of the Union address, last year, I think it was, no, year before last, matter of fact. And I spoke about launching a program. Me and Will Jimerson got up and we talked about launching a program. And this is the program that we launched. It's called Deep Dive. What we did was we got the list from the prosecuting attorney's office that they had been accumulating over a number of years in their Shots Fired program. And on this list, they had a bunch of young kings and queens who were the most likely to be shot or shoot somebody due to the arrest records and due to the being caught up with other people in cars and scenes of crimes and where guns were found and whatnot. And so they were doing this algorithm. And I was like, well, we can't sit back and wait for you guys to just start building cases or wait for somebody to get shot or shoot somebody. And then you guys go arrest somebody, give us that list. And so we got our hands on the list and we started a deep dive program. We went out and we recruited the top 30 people that were more likely to shoot or be shot in South King County and started recruiting these young men and pulling these young men in and getting focused on bringing them in. And then we had to do a lot of work, making sure that they understood they were going to be coming into space with their ops, some of the people that they shot at before. And we had to go through that for a couple of months. And then we were finally able to bring them in space. And yes, they showed up with guns and bulletproof vests, but we knew that was going to happen. And after that first meeting, by the end of the week, there wasn't no more guns, no more vests, and these guys were laughing with each other. We were having sidebar meetings. We were putting truces together, making cats shake hands and promise that they were going to give this program an opportunity. Fast forward 1 year, this is in 12 months. That same crew of guys, out of the 27 or so kids that we brought into that program, 16 of them have full-time jobs now. 6 or 7 of them, maybe even 8 by now, have their own place of steady living facility. They're in their own apartments. 3 of them graduated high school this past year on time. 2 of them are taking their SATs to go to college. I could just go on and on and on. Like literally, this is what we're doing. We're stopping these cats from shooting each other or killing somebody. by giving them the resources and building support around them and creating a village for them. We are big bro, we're uncle, we're their little bros, their nephews. We talk to each other like that. We don't even really call each other by name anymore because we became a family. You know, and that's what it takes to build relationships to help heal the community. It takes relationships. It takes to build that family structure. It takes for a bunch of black men to stand up strong and say, we got you, little bro. We got you, man. We're going to do it. We're going to knock whatever barriers in your way. We're kicking it down for you. And we're going to walk you through these doors, and we're going to navigate these systems with you and for you to make sure you're successful. And once we get you in that space, we're going to be here to support you. And this is what we do. This is why we do what we do, because we know that these young people need to have what we didn't get. That's why we fell off. That's why we went through what we went through. And that's why we're generations in to having these same issues over and over again. And so we have to start breaking the cycle. It has to be us. We're in partnership with a number of organizations, including ACLT. We work with so many organizations doing this work that we have to build this village up so that everybody's included. I'm going to get into the safety hubs, because that's the newest program. We're launching that. We've been ramping this up. So the safety hubs is called the Seattle Community Safety Initiative. And so the safety hubs is to address the hot spots. So we did this work in deep dive. We started recruiting and grabbing all these young cats off the streets. We started working on getting them where they need to be at. And then a bunch of their homies were involved in a lot of shootings over the summer. We started working with their homies too, right? And putting their homies up in hotels so they can heal from bullet wounds, rushing them to hospitals after shooting things, like doing all that stuff, but building these alliances and these bonds with their crews. So now we said, you know what? We got with a group of other organizations and partner organizations around the community. We decided
You went mute. You muted yourself, Coach Dom. Go ahead and unmute. But you have to unmute. You're muted. I don't know if he can hear me or see me. His mic is muted. Sorry, guys. Technical crew, can we get a message to Coach Dom so he can unmute his mic? Coach, don't know if you can see me, but you're muted. Unmute your mic. Yeah, I don't know what happened. You didn't mute it. Not sure. It looks like it's on your end.
Dom, can you hear me? Do you see at the bottom it has a camera, a microphone, and a monitor? No? Yeah, so there's no way we can unmute him from back here.
It was like it just happened.
Yep.
Automatically. Apologies, audience. You guys could see Coach Dom was on fire, and he was going to start telling us
He can
about
log out and come back in. See if he can log out and come back in. Dom, can you hear me?
I can see many people out there responding already to Coach Dom's messaging, and I'll echo what I said in the chat here, that talking about those numbers, diverting over 300 years of issues in the system, so that folks are not in the system, diverting those cases. So that those folks are actually out there in the streets, creating new pathways for themselves. That is the brilliance right there. And a lot of times data helps to tell our stories, but the thing is that it's not the only part of our stories. There's so much nuance that gets missed in data. So I love that he was able to give us that number, but we also know there's so many young people who now have like you said, a big bro to look up to, a big sis in some of their work. I mean, honestly, I am elated because I have been seeing the benefit of community passageways and the other program that he helped to co-found in Choose 180. It really is about folks saying we have a care here for our community members, and we're going to show up. We're going to show up for these young people so that they do have that village. It's being talked about in a wide variety of ways right now, with Twina Nobles and what she's doing at the state level for foster care students, to make sure they have that village so that they can graduate. So honestly, that village mentality, again, is something we all come from. Yes, Curtis? Are we getting Coach Don back?
I thought we were, but he didn't come back into the backstage.
Okay. Well, I know that Coach Don will also be, I think, for one of the breakout sessions later on. But really, kudos to all of the team, Coach Dom and everybody at Community Passageways that is just doing the phenomenal work they're doing. I know that they have a wide-ranging network of people that are mentors and facilitators, and kudos to everybody who is pouring into that effort. It takes the energy of those of us who are passionate, who come from community, who come from a similar lived experience, to allow folks to see themselves in the work. Okay, great. Okay, now we got you.
I'm sorry, you guys. I don't know what's going on. I'm so tired of doing this technology stuff, man. I'm so tired of Zoom call. I can't wait to be in space with my people. I was trying to talk about the Seattle Safety Hubs. We're launching a new program at the end of next month. The Seattle Safety Hubs is to address the shootings in the areas around the Seattle, greater Seattle area. Basically, right now, we have 3 hubs, one in West Seattle, one in the CD, one in the South End. We're manning these hubs with OGs and YGs, with caseworkers and intake specialists and some directors. And so what we're doing is taking the people in those communities that know the communities, training them up, paying them a living wage, giving them a healthcare package, and putting them into the communities to go do the work to help save the community. The people closest to the problem are the answer. So these are the people that we're working with. That's my whole program, our whole organization has nothing but OGs in it. Cats that spent most of the time in the penitentiaries in the streets. So we're in these safety hubs right now. We're doing this work in these communities to try to save our community. We're going to go out and be proactive and preventive in this program. We're not going to wait for something to happen. We already have the relationships in these communities, and all we're going to do now is take the resources into the communities with the relationship and go out and go knock on these doors and hit these blocks, hit these streets, and tap these young cats' shoulders and say, I got something better for you, bro. Come on and rock with me. And this has been tested and proven through the work we've already been doing. We've been very successful at working with these young people in the communities that are out here deeply in these streets. And so literally the safety hubs, I'm super excited about, because I can't wait to see how we can go out, not just help the young cats that's out here in the streets that's putting in the work, but also work with their families, work with the grandma that's raising them, work with the mother or the father that's raising them, and help them get services and resources also. Because it's all about the whole family unit that we got to do. It's all about the whole community that we got to work with. So we're doing this work. I'm excited about this work. The safety hubs is, I can't wait to launch at the end of next month so we can literally show this is what needs to be invested into. This is where we need to divest our money into the criminal justice system back into the community. Take that money out of the criminal justice system and put it in the community, because we're saving lives. Just the time that we've taken off the table already, the 300 plus years, has saved millions and millions and millions of dollars. Well, give us that money. We're doing diversion work with the young people. When we go tap these shoulders in the communities where the safety hubs are at, when the kids are facing criminal charges, we're going to take those criminal charges on with them. We're in mitigation all the time. We're mitigating cases all the time. I'm going to make sure, hey, look, bro, you got a charge. We're going to sit down and we're going to go talk to your defense attorney. We're going to see what we can do and get you in a good space to put a good mitigation package together, because we're going to show them that you're working now. You got housing now. You got support system behind you now. You're on panels and you're on youth advisory committees, and we're going to go ahead and put you in a good space to negotiate charges and keep you in the community. We don't need to see you locked up. We go to court, we sit in sentencings. We tell the judge, why lock this young man up? He has a support system. Why send him away for 5 years? keep them in the community, put them on probation, and let us keep working with them, right? Deter them off this track. Because if you're doing that, all you're doing is perpetuating white supremacy and the racist institution that you guys have built for us to fall in. So let us keep working with these young men. Give us our kids back. We ain't letting you take our kids. We got our kids. So all they need to do is make sure that they get out of our way, right? Just get out of our way. These safety hubs is about that. The safety hubs is about healing our community and pushing the system out the way. Making sure the system sees we got this. And give us our damn money that we earned off our blood, sweat, and tears from our ancestors' hard work, right? Give us our money so we can take care of our community. And that's what these safety hubs are about. That's what community passageways is about. That's what we do. That's what we're focused on. I'm going to go ahead and end that. Thank you guys for listening to me. I appreciate y'all. I love my Black and brown sisters and brothers.
Oh my goodness, Coach Dom, and we love you back. Always bringing that fire, that passion, that energy. We so appreciate you bringing all of your knowledge and your lived experience to the work. Literally, I'm so emotional right now. Those 300 plus years that you guys have diverted from the system and getting those folks out there on the ground, working in their communities, allowing them to become mentors for the next generation. You guys are just phenomenally doing the work, brother. I'm so elated and honored to work alongside you in this community. You have no idea. It's an honor. I'm so glad that you were here today. Thank you again. You guys, I can see all in the chat, everybody giving Coach Dom the claps, the high fives. I mean, you know, we are fired up here in our community because, again, we care so deeply about the future of our community, about the present, about the past. This is so important for us to learn from the past so we can bring that knowledge and bring the experiences to bear right now in the present and to move forward in the future. I know when I hear folks that are just as passionate as Coach Dom just was right there, I don't know about y'all, but it fires me up. And with that, I am also fired up to bring in Miss Imijah Smith, somebody I get the pleasure of working alongside almost every single day with King County Equity Now. Imijah has blown my mind with how she comes into space, how she is always grounded in the wisdom of our elders and always ensuring that community is at the root of everything that she does. Please join me in welcoming Miss Imijah Smith of King County Equity Now.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Wonderful, wonderful. I can't see myself, but I do have my screen shared here. So I'm just going to go with it. Thank you to all of the speakers, the elders of distinction, the elders who have spoke. You have definitely poured into my spirit. I definitely walk alongside you. This has been powerful, and it's just giving me more wind behind my back to continue to do this work. My name is Imijah Smith. Call me Imijah. I'm a community queen in the community, meaning I'm a keeper of the community, sit at many different tables, and I've been involved in our Black organizing locally and on a state level for many, many of years. And so I'm here today to speak on behalf of King County Equity Now. I'm the chief of staff there, and here to showcase some of what we're all about as far as King County Equity Now. Can you all see the screen, my slide?
Yes, it looks great.
Wonderful. So King County Equity Now, as you can see, was birthed out of the deep, rich history and powerful legacy of Black resistance and organizing. And as you have already heard before, folks have spoke to that. So me being from the community myself, I have seen it modeled for me in real life, in real time, from Black Panthers to folks doing teachings at the schools, from being there myself, organizing and boycotting schools, and really being at the table around education, food, land acquisitions. And now I'm being able to show and model that for our children and for our youth, and even standing alongside our youth who have really shored up, especially over the summer in the wake of the George Floyd devastation, the wake of the George Floyd, and all our Black organizing around Black Lives Matter. To just do this in community and with community has been wonderful. So coming in to just hold that up, I'm so livid. I'm so happy to be speaking at the State of Africatown, because I've been to those spaces and participated. And now to see this all come together is just, it's just amazing. National, worldwide presence here. So we stand on the shoulders of that legacy of organizing, and we're moving that forward here, not only just locally in Seattle, but for the Martin Luther King Jr. King County of Washington. And so what King County Equity Now does, moving forward in that, as we have tried to we formalize into an organization where we do Black advocacy, Black amplification of our stories within our community, our youth, our creatives, our elders, and Black research. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide. So what I want to share with you all is that being a new organization and being birthed out of that urgency, that reactivism of organizing, we're moving into a different phase, continually keep centered the spirit of our Black resistance and our organizing and our liberation. We are now a 501c4. We have had the opportunity to hire 6 full-time staff. We have a great board. The Honorable Dawn Mason shared that she is proud to be on the board of King County Equity Now. We have K.Y. King Garrett. We have Prince Reese, Ayan Muse. And there's a leadership team that I'm part of, as well as Triana Holiday and Isaac Joy. We're connected with an advisory team of our young people who had that fire, who still got that fire to push forward in our events over the summer and keep staying connected throughout the rest of our work. I mean, we are just doing some really great things. I want to share with you a little bit about some of our descriptors around the advocacy work that we're doing, as well as some of the research and amplification. So we're jumping into electoral politics to build and promote pro-Black political campaigns throughout the state to advance equity ownership and political power for Black people right now. And we are building the Black Advocacy Institute that uplift and elevate the best and brightest equity solutions and work within our Black community. We're amplifying by leveraging our political and organizing network, strategic communication strategies, and digital presence to uplift the work of our Black communities on the ground. We are connected to our Black-led organizations. We are a coalition of Black-led organizations. We are not just one. We are one of many.
Sorry, Imanja, can you hear me? Folks are asking if you can hit present at the top of your screen there. It's next to the share button so that they can see it enlarged.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I wish I don't even see let me find it. The whole technology thing, I am so ready to speak. And usually I don't write things down. I'm just ready to speak from the spirit. But thank y'all. Let me get back to what I was trying to share with you. So in our amplification work, which Triana really holds most of that, where we use our media and we bring in the lived experience and the stories of our advocacy and what's happening in our community. And with our Black research, we are building a nation-leading Black-led and Black-centered research institute that uses culturally fluid processes, methodologies, and practices to center and uplift our Black voices and perspectives. And with our vast and deep ecosystem, we facilitate an unparalleled size, scale, and depth. And so we leverage our community's brilliance and volunteer base to support and implement our Black equity solutions. This particular slide is up to kind of share some of our wins. We've had some huge wins. And these wins are not just because of King County Equity Now, it's because of the legacy of our relationships in our community. It's the legacy of our Black resistance and our organizing that has moved us forward. I'm proud to be able to speak to say I've seen some things go forward that I'm here to talk versus where my parents or my grandparents, some of these things look the same, but we're being able to say we've had some movement going forward. The fact that the state of Africatown, that we talk about having a place for us, built by us, and going to continue to produce for us is amazing. Well, let me share a few wins with y'all that I think are just magnificent. So we made some tremendous strides towards some transformation. We've successfully partnered with Africatown Center Land Trust, advocating for Seattle to transfer over the Fire Station 6. I've been at that table. That has taken many years. So in partnership, we've made that happen over this summer. We've successfully also partnered with ACLT to halt nearly a full block of predatory development at the former Cairo site in the heart of the central area. We've successfully mobilized $17 million of investment into the Black community, including immediate funds for gun violence prevention, community service scale up, and the Black Brilliance Research program of 100 researchers to lay a foundation for the participatory budgeting program in the city of Seattle for 2021. We're currently advocating to transfer the red, black, and green barn ranch, a vacant 47-acre Black equitable farming, to produce food for our community, but for the community as a whole, not just for Black folks, but we all share into that, but we can own and grow our own food to sustain us. We're also advocating to transfer a vacant lot in South Seattle to the East African Community Services to develop an East African-centered family empowerment center and community housing. And we're currently advocating for the Washington State Housing Finance Commission to fund projects for affordable housing in the city of Seattle, including the Africatown Plaza, the Ethiopian Village, and the Elizabeth Thomas homes. Currently, we're partnering with many to establish a $1 billion anti-gentrification land acquisition fund towards the land ownership and development of Black communities across the state and statewide for a Black legislative or a Black equitable agenda. Yeah, I am just so proud to be connected and be doing the work in the community. So part of us moving forward as we're slowing down from that urgency in our organizing, although the issues are still very urgent, I just want to remind the community that we're here in the community, we're here with the community, and we're going to have community accountability by centering our relationships. And right now you'll see a slide of just a few and more to come and more to highlight some of our community stewards who are pillars in our community right now, who are foundational and who are strongly connected and credible. And this is just a sense of showing like we're centering our relationships. We can't do anything really great without our community moving along with us. And so with that, I would love to ask the community to continue to build and connect with us by volunteering, joining our newsletter, finding us on our website, kingcountyequitynow.com, just to, continue to see all the great things that we're doing and how y'all can support us. Now, I hope that I don't lose you by taking this off the screen. Am I still here with y'all?
You are.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I again just want to say how privileged it is to be here to speak with you all today, to share what King County Equity Now is doing. It definitely takes a village, and I'm just proud to be a part of the village. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Miss Imaja Smith. It's powerful work. I am so honored to work alongside you every single day. She and I have been the 1-2 punch coming together with so many others, as you said, an amazing board, an amazing leadership team and staff, and an amazing advisory board of our youth who we call the core, because they have been at the core of so much of this. And thank you to all of you that really make up what that ecosystem looks like. All of those organizations that have poured in to King County Equity Now and said, we work alongside and in sidestep with King County Equity Now, groups like Africatown Community Land Trust, amazing work, and so many more. You're going to actually hear from some of them. You've already heard from Coach Dom, who's a part of that network, and you're going to hear up next from Inye Wakoma. Thank you so much, Imaja, for your work and for bringing that great presentation today.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Awesome. You guys, as you can tell, this year's State of Africatown is jam-packed with amazing presentations from amazing presenters. And we're going to try to make sure that we continue. We know that we're a little bit behind the time, and we want to make sure that we do have time for some of that breakout session room time, because folks, I know, want to share back and forth. We want to have a dialogue and a conversation about what you guys are learning and hearing today, and about how you see yourselves as a part of this work. So really excited to again continue on with it. So it looks like we're actually going to go with the Eritrean community in Seattle. Jordanos Teferi has been at the forefront, and I have had the pleasure of working with Jordanos and being in space with Jordanos. We all know, as we have heard from so many of our guest presenters today, that it starts with a real passion for wanting to be a representative for your community, because you come from community, and ultimately you understand the nature that it takes and the nurture that is required to ensure that our voices are heard in a multifaceted way and in multiple sectors. And Jordanos has been doing that work so brilliantly. I am elated and to say that I know Jordanos, and honestly, that I know some of these people that are presented here, and that I have the opportunity to learn and build relationship with those I don't have relationship with yet, because that's really at the center of this work, is the relational ties that bind. So many of us understand that we are not here to be extractive or transactional. That is a part of colonialism that we're saying no longer will we move in that regard. We need to move by building real, honest, and true relationships that are built on shared covenants and values that really allow us to hold each other accountable in spaces, so that we can again do this work collectively. So here we are. Here we are. It's coming. Miss Jordanos is joining us right now. Again, thank you guys for your grace with these technical difficulties we've been having. Jordanos is also going to be joined by Wanjiku. And so I'm very pleased to welcome them both for the work that they do. We have, again, an amazing opportunity to learn from some great folks in our community. Thank you so much. Bye, Jordanos. You guys take it away.
Thank you, Triana. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jordanos Teferi, and I'm honored to be here representing Multicultural Community Coalition. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sounds great.
Thank you. I'm also the board chair of the Eritrean Community Center, located in the Central District since 1983, and is an MCC member. Seattle's history of racist housing and real estate practices and policies, including racially restrictive covenants and redlining, have created grave inequities that have harmed and constrained Black communities throughout the Central District and Southeast Seattle. Inequities which still impact residents in terms of disparate educational and employment opportunities, diminished health outcomes, significant economic inequity, and other disparities in quality of life. The inspired vision and determined activism of community leaders and local residents who, in the midst of a growing wave of gentrification and displacement, believe that by mobilizing their collective resources, they could place a stake in the ground for Black immigrant and refugee communities who have historically called the Rainier Valley home. Over 10 years ago, the trend of physical disinvestment and demographic stability in Southeast Seattle had been changing due to a strong regional economy and the introduction of the light rail that began running in 2009. At Othello and MLK, the light rail station brought with it renewed development interest in the neighborhood, and in 2010, the Othello community came together and worked with the city to create the Othello Neighborhood Plan Update, now incorporated into the city's comprehensive plan. In 2010, HUD issued a $3 million community challenge grant, which inspired the city and community groups to work together to focus on identifying community priorities and on creating the cultural anchors needed for communities to have stability through equitable transit-oriented development in the face of gentrification and displacement. In response, the MCC was formed. Being new to the development scene, the city assisted MCC in partnering with Homesite as our technical service provider. Thereafter, Homesite made us a proposal in which, if we were to combine projects, a percentage of the proceeds from their housing project would trickle down to support our organizations. We agreed to this partnership and executed several official agreements to have Homesite serve as the community developer. In 2015, our many years of hard work led us to become a project originator of the Othello Square project, for which we helped secure the 3.2 million acre site that is located at Othello and MLK. The location has always been envisioned as Seattle's investment in an economic opportunity center and a multicultural community center, both core equitable transit principles that arose from the city's Community Cornerstone report published in 2013. MCC has been focusing on 2 project components, but we have recently added a third. First, our co-working space will serve as a model for economies of scale through co-location and integration of services for increasing organizational capacity, efficiency, and infrastructure. With lower administrative and overhead costs through shared leadership, MCC member organizations will be able to invest more in their programs and services, including youth safety and leadership programs, aging services, cultural programming, workforce development, and much, much more. All the vital services that help community to prosper in place. Secondly, the Cultural Innovation Center will be a vital heritage and cultural arts venue, which will house year-round cultural events and activities, and will be a dedicated space for cultural exhibits, storytelling, and curated artworks that tell the history of our peoples, the stories of our lives in the Rainier Valley, and the vision and aspirations. The Cultural Innovation Center will also serve as a creative economy space in which artists, cultural nonprofits, and creative small businesses will produce and distribute cultural goods and services that generate jobs, revenue, and quality of life, endorsing the proven notion that a thriving cultural sector leads to thriving communities. Unfortunately, in March of 2020, we were removed from the Opportunity Center project by Homesite without notice or cause. In fact, they only claimed in an email that we removed ourselves, which is false and was never on the table. We are currently precluded from accessing approximately $5.5 million of funding and the land which we helped secure despite our deep contribution through our human and social capital. Most notably, Homesite is also laying claim to $1.3 million of state funds earmarked specifically for the building of a multicultural community center. Luckily, our many community partners and elected representatives are working with us to right this wrong. But we raise all such issues to illustrate that we are working from the standpoint of a severe deficit, despite having tirelessly worked on our project for over a decade. This is a narrative that I am sure many of you are familiar with. Also, just last month, Homesite announced that it will no longer be able to develop the Opportunity Center. We and other community stakeholders are now seeking to engage with the Seattle Housing Authority to ensure that the land remains with the community and to make certain that we will be at the decision-making table in order to guarantee that all community priorities will be actualized. While working to secure our place at the community center last year, COVID led us to quickly endeavor upon disaster gentrification policy and systems work in partnership with the Rainier Beach Action Coalition and Puget Sound SAGE. MCC was particularly troubled by the early data that showed that the pandemic was resulting in 50% of Black businesses having to permanently close down. We then learned in early June that the old DMV building located in Helmand City was up for sale. This location currently houses 8 East African small businesses, some of which that have been operating there since 2005. Once we learned that all of those businesses stood to be displaced because the potential buyers were looking to develop a supermarket, a restaurant, and/or condos, we decided to move quickly to take the property off the market. We are thankful that we received additional EDI funds to acquire the property and are now working to close on the property in early April of this year. MCC will seek to anchor the 8 small businesses through rent stabilization while also working to incorporate our other project components in this new building. We thank you for the opportunity to be with you today and to be amongst so much Black brilliance. We are honored to be guided and inspired by the work of Africatown and are greatly appreciative of the support and mentorship we continue to receive from the organization and specifically from Joaquin, Curtis, and Triana. Thank you all. We look forward to sharing more as our project evolves and invite you to reach out to us as thought partners.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jordanos. You have been a powerhouse out there for the community, ensuring, again, that community voice is at the center of these development projects. We all know how important that work is, and we are learning more and more as we grow. Thank you so much for all of your work out here on the ground. All right, you guys, we are going to continue with the program. Again, we have lots of folks still here. We thank you for sticking with us. We are excited. Honestly, there's been so much greatness on today's State of Africatown. I've just been saying it today and really experienced it over here in my space of just the fulfilling nature that all of this work really provides when you care so much about, the state of our people. That's what this really is about. It's about showcasing the brilliance. And I'm so glad that we can work in a collective model. Many of us with really busy schedules, myself included, I definitely know how it is to have back-to-back Zooms all day. You have no breaks. You're eating on the Zoom. You're, excusing yourself for bathroom breaks because that is what is required of us right now. And when we work alongside each other collectively, we're able to share all of that energy so that it's not making us feel like, oh no, I'm going to get burnt out. So with that, I want to bring in our next guest presenter, Simone Andu. Simone is actually representing East African Community Services. They provide a great wide range of activities in terms of after school for K through 12, being culturally responsive and bringing in programs around math and reading, and also culturally appropriate programming with Harambe. So thank you so much for being with us, Simone. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. We can hear you.
Beautiful, beautiful. So first of all, thank you all for having me. My name is Simone Andu, and I'm sitting actually on behalf of my sister Munira, who couldn't be here today. I do want to thank Africatown for giving us the opportunity to share the stage with so many brilliant people who've been impacting the community in so many ways. But honestly, before I even start, I wanted to acknowledge our elders, and it's just been a beautiful, beautiful, morning/afternoon listening and learning. In our community, when your elders are present, you don't speak, you listen, because we were taught that you'll have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth to observe and to listen. And we also believe in the motherland that when an elder passes away, a library closes down. And so while they're with you, you observe the knowledge that they have. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, and that I'm speaking in the presence of so many great individuals. I don't have a lot of time, so I wanted to be very precise. And so I'm going to look at my notes. I wanted to address 2 things, y'all. One is our work in the community. And then the second question was, where do we go from here in order to build and maintain a thriving Black community? So as far as East African Community Service, especially within the last year, we have been a lifeline to the community, honestly, especially within the pandemic. We've been providing basic needs from food vouchers to help, getting rental assistance, getting digital equity to our youth who were struggling, who didn't have computers and all to continue their education. We've been advocating and trying to educate our community members on just COVID, on testing, etc. At the same time, now that vaccines are available, we started really mobilizing and connecting with community members and partners to bring vaccinations to our elders and most vulnerable people in the community. The last one we had was about 2 days ago, and we're planning to have more pop-up events in the community, but at the same time addressing the real fear that exists. And so trying to be more strategic about that. On top of that, aside from like the pandemic, we have started looking at our programmings and our infrastructure. And I just been with the organization for about 2-3 months, and I was brought in to create a mentorship program and to create an outreach program that works in the community to address gun violence. I know my brother Dom, Coach Dom, spoke eloquently about it, and so these are things that we've been doing in the community, trying to create an infrastructure, because we believe that structure drives behavior, and we really wanted to address a lot of the issues and challenges that our youth are facing in the community. I personally believe, and we believe, that the most important natural resource for our people is our youth. In order for us to really survive in the future, I know some people look at, gas and oil and all of these things, but it is our youth. That is the most precious natural resource. And so that's why I commend a lot of my brothers and sisters who have been speaking, throughout the morning on the importance of preserving the youth and our Black women, because we really believe that, by empowering our Black and brown women, then you are building a platform in which you can preserve the future. And so saving the Black woman and the brown woman, by saving that, by empowering them, and by healing and participating in that too, we are saving literally our future. So we believe in these fundamental rights and issues. And so we have been working tirelessly to preserve systems that address these challenges in a systemic way. And the last part that we've been doing is sitting on many circles, including King County Equity Now's circles. We've been working with Brother Girmay, who also mentioned about us working on getting a land that preserves our presence in our inner cities, to continue, again, having a lifeline to our communities for generations to come. And from that, I wanted to move to the second questions, because we've been in so many circles, especially because of Zoom and the availability of technology. And many of you see that now we have a connection with so many people across the world. And I really loved Dr. Marcia at the beginning, how she grounded us and how she talked to us from the perspective of people. She didn't, and this has been on my heart throughout the morning, and I wanted to address it. In order for us to maintain a thriving Black community, we need to dismantle the systemic and colonial mindset that we have as a people. Looking at the motherland, for example, so many divisions, so many wars, and looking over here, our communities have always been divided. And so when Dr. Marcia at the beginning didn't speak to us from the lens of Black versus African, or this versus that, but she said, as a people, she acknowledged our ancestors as one. I wanted to highlight that, and I really wanted to highlight the work of Brother Kwame Ture. In one of his speeches, he said, we must have an undying love for our people first, then it is you and me. And I talk about this whole the important point of unity. And I know to so many people that's an idealist thing, but I really believe in that. That is what we need to do in order for us to thrive in the future. And unity comes, I think, first within conquering the internal evil that is within each one of us. So yes, it is idealistic, but I think that each of us can do the work and look inward first in order for us to come together as a people. And I really love also that when Brother Kwame Ture and some of our brothers and sisters talked about this, that our need of organizing over mobilizing, because I think by organizing we target and we solve the problems that arise in our community. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about here is that it is important for us as a people in the United States to align the struggle of the Black and brown people in the States to that of the world, and that's what Dr. King and that's what Brother Malcolm X and so many brilliant ancestors try to do. In the United States, the Black and brown folks are the minority, but in the world, we are the majority. And so for us to continue connecting our struggle inward in these states to the struggle of all the Black and brown people outside of these states, because that's when we will thrive, I think, as a community. And so I don't want to go over the time. I just wanted to say thank you all. I appreciate you for giving us the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Africatown, and looking forward to continue building and working with all of you. Peace and love. Thank you.
And thank you, Simone, for being here on behalf of Munera, my sister out there doing some phenomenal work with East Africa Community Services. You guys, again, are another example of what it means to do this work on the ground. Thank you so much for being here. You guys, I am actually really excited. I've been excited to introduce all of these speakers and really honored that, you know, Africatown said, hey, Trey, we need you to be your hostess with the mostest. I said, you got it, guys. Whatever y'all need, I'm here, because we wear many hats in our communities. And it's really about being connected to what is needed at the time. So I am really honored that I'm able to take on this position today. And I'm honored to introduce Dr. Keisha Scarlett. Keisha Scarlett has been doing phenomenal work in the Seattle Public Schools system and bringing all that knowledge into a lot of other educational spaces. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Keisha Scarlett.
Thank you, everyone. Hello, good afternoon. I am so glad to be here. Now, I have some slides, but I don't even know how to get them up. So I'm just going to go with my my talking points here and get started with us. First of all, I just want to thank you so much, Africatown, Brother White King, for inviting me to be a part of this esteemed celebration, really celebration for us, a time for us to come together. I am Dr. Keisha Scarlett, Chief Academic Officer in Seattle Public Schools, a multi-generational member of the Seattle Black community, proud graduate of Garfield High School and Clark Atlanta University, my HBCU. And I want to acknowledge the youth and elders in this virtual community space. And want to also acknowledge my wonderful, beautiful husband, Christopher Scarlett, who is such an amazing support, and our 3 amazing children. And also acknowledge that I stand on the shoulders of my amazing parents, Dr. Maynard and Carolyn Sofer, who are the living embodiment of Black love and Black excellence. And I'm inviting you all in my home so you can hear the dogs bark and the door open, and please be patient with me as I kind of move through this. So I worked in SPS for the past 21 years, over now 10 roles, from teaching to school leadership to district leadership. And with each job shift, I've needed to reimagine my role in SPS, focused on cultivating and amplifying Black excellence. So yes, Elder Don Mason, I will lead with boldness on behalf of our community and will support the leadership of Dr. Brent Jones as he soon transitions into service as our new interim superintendent. So just to give a little context about the work that we're doing in Seattle Public Schools, in 2019, our school board passed a Seattle Excellence Strategic Plan that was focused on a targeted universalism approach for students furthest from educational justice, starting with African-American boys and young boys. And what they failed to understand that I knew is that nothing would ever be realized in this strategic plan, just like other strategic plans, if we didn't address anti-Black racism and anti-Blackness. What they also failed to realize was that the adoption of the strategic plan mandates transformative leadership that can only come through leading a pro-Black agenda in our system, because Black excellence is Seattle excellence. So our strategic plan, I believe, while bold, has really truly failed to teach for Black lives and teach for Black excellence. And I'm focused on ensuring our strategic plan is focused on both of those. So Brother White King asked me in another email to share about the state of Black children in SPS and the vision for the path moving forward for our children being fully developed in their greatness. And so how are the children? How are Black children? So Black children continue to persist in environments that often feel unwelcoming to them and their families. And we are resilient, and our system was never designed for us to thrive. We have all collectively experienced insurmountable loss. And I just want to acknowledge the loss that many of us and the intersections of us as a Black community and Black family have experienced just here locally in Seattle, but nationally and internationally. But also COVID-19 has brought some relief for Black children in SPS as I speak with families. It has interrupted the white gaze that lays on our children, a white supremacy that always projects of us being less than. Many of our children are experiencing more time connected with their families. Their families and parents are telling me about how they're growing spiritually and culturally. Children are reporting that themselves. Black kids, you all are losing weight. My own son, he's a 2020 graduate of Seattle Public Schools. He's grown 2 inches. We're tall people as SOFers, and so he's 6 feet 6 inches, and he's dropped 40 pounds. And I wonder how stressful the environments really were on him as a young Black male teen who was brilliant yet neurodiverse, having autism, and how he navigates through the school system and through life. Our children are being reminded of their potential to be great, and our children are learning. Despite what's being narrated as learning loss, our children are learning from us. They're learning from the world around us. They're learning from the action of adults. And this meaningful learning does need to be contextualized for them. So as Chief Academic Officer, I reject and refuse to narrate learning loss in terms of Black and Brown children as an impetus for us returning to in-person learning. Many families have expressed, a high percentage of families have expressed an unwillingness to return back to schools because there's no part of our system that has ever made Black people feel safe, or that our children will be safe, or even prioritized in this. And we understand that that's the failing of us as a school system, and actually as a nation of multiple institutions that are failed around healthcare and housing and in schools as well. And so, yes, children have lost access to schooling, and without schools, they've lost access to schooling guided by pacing guides and curriculum maps that determine learning children. But I'm also concerned about our children's academic and social emotional well-being. But COVID-19 pandemic did not precipitate this concern that we hold for our children. Our children were not thriving in schools pre-COVID. Narrating learning loss for our children often functions as a dog whistle for white entitlement and ignores how our social policies have created racial, economic, and educational inequities and sustained the conditions in which they persist. So I do not believe that we will ultimately find liberatory education for our children in the current structure. And you may say, why, Keisha, do you remain in that structure? You all, our babies are there. I'm in Seattle Public Schools. I'm in public schools because that's where our children are. So we can't tear apart the entire school system because we don't have anything to replace it. However, we as Black folk are responsible for demanding liberatory education from our schools, our leaders, our educators, our staff, and school board. So one thing that I feel inspired by in my work is work around policy. We currently have a draft pro-Black and pro-Indigenous anti-racism policy. This policy came from community and reflects the exact language that many of you gave during its drafting. It is, if it's preserved in its current form and not weakened nor replaced with earlier drafts, it actually holds the potential to support us in shifting an entire system with a clear through line to academic excellence for Black children. One part of that policy that I'm particularly interested in really working on is talent development. How do we construct and build a whole child Black excellent framework and focus on talent development? Right now in our system, we put so much focus on trauma and wraparound supports. These things are important, but academics oftentimes run tertiary to any of these other areas. And that actually promotes white supremacy thoughts, that we don't actually believe as a system that Black children can be academically thriving in our system. So we focus on all the other things and narrate Black trauma. Black folks have been in trauma since we got here. So that's not something new for us. So as we think about the work in Seattle Public Schools, I'm very excited about the work of Dr. Mia Williams, who is the leader and chief of our Office of African American Male Achievement. Their mantra is nothing for us without us. And she is working really hard in this work of elevating Black male voices, she and her staff, and making sure our Black boys are at the center of decision-making in their families as well. And so I know that there's been some feedback about a Black woman being in this position, but I will say on record to all of you that Dr. Williams is the best person for this job in this time. She may not retain in this job forever, but there is no one who can set a table like a Black woman. And so she is setting the table and spending time working in community and working with community leaders in order to elevate the voices of our families. Just this month, there are a number, 6 or 7, maybe 8, of family forums, even more, 3 more next week. We're inviting families to really speak to us and share with us about what their values and interests and priorities are in the education of their Black sons. So as we move forward and really think about where are we and where do we need to go from here to build and maintain Black communities, a few things come into focus for me. So we are starting a Black education program in SPS. I do a lot of racial equity work. Working on tools is super frustrating, pushing against white supremacist systems, but also I have to move in the space of innovation, which is really the anti-racist work. I'm super excited about how we're working in partnership across Mr. James Bush, Dr. Constance Pedroza, Dr. Williams, working on this Black education program in SPS. We currently have a Black studies course that we have students across the district that are part of it, that are part of 11th grade US history as a replacement. Ongoing work funded by our powerful partners, Dwayne Chappelle, leader and director of the Department of Education and Early Learning from the city of Seattle, funding the Kingmakers of Seattle and Kingmakers of Seattle Extended program. Also the Black Education Project, where we are bringing in community-based organizations to be the teachers for our students and have family opportunities and community opportunities for education and other things that are in connection to education for students and community. Also, something you can expect in the fall is a stronger focus on homeschooling. I want to thank Sister Mayette, who took my call last night, to really bring what the Black Star Line has developed as a village learning model to support Black family engagement and partnership as they navigate remote learning and foster home and community learning opportunities. Another thing that comes to mind is also Black visibility. Africatown really represents this for us. We reject the narratives of Seattle being a white place. Seattle is not a white place. It has, and anytime we say that, we are actually invisibilizing the indigenous and Black histories of this place. Seattle is Black space, and Seattle schools is Black space for our children. So that's what I'm hoping to have happen through our Black education program, but through other work that we're doing across schools. Another area that comes to mind is around building wealth. I remember Nicole Bascom Green, a family member of mine, a realtor from Bascom Realty, spoke last year about owning property as a mechanism for building wealth. It's also a mechanism for us to remain visible in our city. I think about my parents as the prototype. They married and moved to the CD. I moved from the CD into our childhood home in 1968 on Beacon Hill, close to Holly Park. And I watched them push us into all buying homes in our early 20s, supporting us with our down payments from the equity that they have received in their property. They purchased our church property in 1998, then another 3-acre property in Skyway, another home in Seward Park. And even in their 70s, they just purchased the building next door to our church in Skyway to keep legal cannabis folks from opening next door. This builds legacy for our family and for our community. And so when I just visualize where we need to think about moving forward for a thriving community, I think about the Sankofa bird, and Dr. Joy Hardiman had me think about the Sankofa bird recently while I was talking with her, but think about that seed, that egg that is in the bird's mouth. These are our children. Our children are our future. Our school systems continue to capitalize off of Black children and families. We receive funds of school systems through white supremacist narration of Black failure. School systems will continue to use the resources to obfuscate Black brilliance unless we demand for something different. White intellect is what has developed the system that we're in, so we cannot leave the educational futures of our Black children in the hands of folks who won't acknowledge the inherent brilliance of our babies. So school systems would much rather narrate Black trauma rather than our community's Black excellence, in spite of the trauma, racism, and disinvestment and displaced democracy that we continue to battle against. So we must demand the shift of our systems. And our youth are standing on the shoulders of us and can see so much further. Dr. Bettina Love says that. They stand on our shoulders. They can see way farther than we can. So we must support community-based organizations, Black-led organizations that movement build and cultivate youth agency, helping our children to really understand their power, not to just give advisement, but also to act. There's been no movement in this country that's ever happened, or in this world really, without youth at the forefront of this. So our youth are who we should be investing our time in. And so I'm just going to take a little hit from Afrofuturism. I've been thinking a whole lot about it and looking at it a lot, and about how Afrofuturism gives Black folks courage to survive. And, you know, love is our survival strategy, y'all. So loving and nurturing our children has to be our survival strategy as well. And so I'm so glad for this opportunity to be able to share with you. I hope I didn't go over time. And I'm just looking forward to your accountability and your feedback and ways that we can partner together moving forward. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Keisha Scarlett. I know I saw people all in the chat just fired up about the work that you are doing inside of Seattle Public School Systems, and yet expanding it beyond. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, you guys. This is, you know, again, as I said, I mean, this is just a glimpse of all of the brilliance of people that are working on the ground. The state of Africatown aims to bring it all together so that people can be in the know, be engaged. You know, if you are really inspired by some things that you are hearing, find some ways for you to use your time, talent, and treasure. As my good friend always says, I love the 3 T's, with my name being Trayon, obviously, but you find a way to use your time, talent, and treasure to bring it into some of these initiatives. There's a lot of great work groups happening on the ground. I spoke of some of them. I know Dr. Keisha Scarlett has been involved in our education work group here at Africatown. And honestly, there are a multitude of ways for you to find yourself engaged even more in the process. I am excited to hear from our next guest presenter. You know, anytime I'm reading people's bios and learning about folks, and one of the first things that is said is, you know, this person is an American activist. It really does cement me and ground me in their ideology and the work that they do without even understanding exactly each level, because activism comes in a way that really, again, showcases the power of so much of our passion and how we can take that passion to the next level. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Charles Rogers.
Thank you very much. Am I on now? Well, thank you very much. My name is Charles Barron, and I'm from New York City. I'm a New York assemblyman from the city of New York that they call the Big Apple. Never gave us a bite. But I wanted to thank you, particular Y King, and the members of Africatown for the model that you have set across the nation on the importance of Black self-determination, Black liberation. So let me start off by saying that I want to give a macro picture and then a micro picture of what we're doing in my beloved Brooklyn community of East New York and the 60th Assembly District. And my wife, Inez Barron, is the local council member. She is the council member in the 42nd Council District. So what we focused on a macro sense, we have to do all of this stuff in education and housing and healthcare and jobs and stopping gentrification and mass incarceration. But the root of the problem is that we are governed by a racist, neo-colonial capitalist system, a colonial capitalist system that has a warmongering, imperialistic foreign policy, and racism is the ideology that permeates every institution and many of the minds of the council. We did a power analysis. You know, in the 60s, we said Black power. Well, we did the Black, but we didn't do the power. We did the Black, we put on our African garb, our dashikis, changed our names, Afro hairdos. We talked about having Black History Month and Black History taught on the college campuses. Won and fought that. We did Kwanzaa. We did the Kawaii theory. We did all of these things to promote our culture, which was the right thing to do because culture is a weapon for liberation. But we didn't do the power. We didn't get the power. Power is the ability to act. Power is the ability to make decisions and to influence things in a way
Hi, everyone. I think we had a technical difficulty with the software here. We are working to get everything back going. I can see we're trying to make sure that people get back in here. But thank you. I see that folks are joining back now in the droves by utilizing the link that you originally used to be a part of the event. Whether you're a presenter or in the audience, there is a different link to use, but we are gearing folks back up as we see because the Honorable Charles Rogers was getting into it. And I just want to say that it is clear, you know, this year, the one thing is that we all are learning about the digital world even more than we probably ever wanted to really learn. Yet it is important that, you know, this year it's also uplifted that because of the digitization, we were able to make sure it was expanded even further, right? And so with Honorable Charles Rogers representing New York in their 60th district in Brooklyn, might I add, as the assemblyman, he was coming from, again, showcasing that passion. I know that Curtis and Booty, our tech folks on the back end, are making sure that we can get him back on so that he is able to finish for you all. And again, thank you, those that are joining us again. Thank you for going out and logging back in. Looked like the software was timed, and because we've been a little bit behind because of the technical ins and outs, it just like kicked us all out. So I experienced that along with you all as well. But it is important again that we you know, find ways of being resilient, right? I mean, our people and Black folks have known that since the dawn of time, that we really make ways out of no ways. We come from the opportunity mindset, right? Where everything is an opportunity to learn. everything is an opportunity to grow. And so with that, I just realized that we need to make sure we have some time and space so that people can rejoin. I'm going to go ahead and ensure that my camera and my microphone are off so that we can give a few more minutes for folks to rejoin us. We definitely have a couple more speakers after Honorable Charles Rogers goes there. And so we're here and ready to go. I'm happy to see that Representative Kirsten Harris Talley is in our backstage, ready to go as well in terms of answering this state of Africatown. Because one of the greatest things about this event is that it's not just a presenting out, it is also having our elected officials present to receive the message, to give us a message back to say, this is what I've heard, this is what I'm hearing, this is how I will take it on personally in my elected official capacity. I will move forward with all of this great knowledge I've heard. And already, I was going to save this for her introduction, but I have already been a witness to and working alongside Representative Kirsten Harris Talley, KHT, as we know her out here. But honestly, seeing that passion move from not just the campaign, but into the work is what is so vital. We talk about the importance of, right now, one of the things that we're doing, you guys, is we're working within the system while creating a new system without becoming a part of the system, right? It's like, that's what we have to do. We have to do that, all of that work simultaneously so that we can actualize so much of the brilliance that happens at the grassroots level. And that's what we're hearing today. We're hearing it from grassroots. We're hearing it from inside of institutional structure, like Dr. Keisha Scarlett, working inside of the Seattle Public School System to change it from the inside. So I see all of us are getting back on. Yes, if we are ready. Charles Barron, thank you. I had got it mixed up right here. So thank you so much, Kashayla. Charles Barron, absolutely. That it is important, again, that we're hearing from all of this amazing grassroots work so that we can begin to take it into the institutions and into the systems that really have been keeping oppression alive. One of the things I always say out here in terms of my organizing work is that it is so fundamentally crucial that we understand the ways that we can begin to affect change now, and the changes that are needed in terms of us doing the steps, doing the work, one foot in front of the other, to make things happen. That's what it takes right now. So I'm glad to see you there again, Charles Barron. Thank you so much. I am going to go ahead and let you take it away. Curtis, I think you have to unmute. Sorry, I see you there talking, and I didn't want to miss what you were saying.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, it's good now?
Yep.
Okay. As I was saying, thank you once again. I want y'all to continue your great work. Where I was leading to is the acquisition of power through local politics, but not just any Black person. Black faces in high places doesn't necessarily mean Black power or Black self-determination. Martin Luther King called them manufactured leaders. How the gives these Black leaders that are going to cooperate with the colonial capitalist system prestigious positions and resources as long as they stay under their control and they maintain the control in our communities. This is why we need a because of the political structures in our community, they keep us disempowered. So what we did in East New York, I ran for the city council and won. My wife ran for the state assembly and won. We won the local community board seats, and we won the local district leadership seats and the local judge. And so with that political establishment called Operation Power, people organizing and working for empowerment and respect, we wiped out the Democratic Party club. The blacks, we call them neo-colonial black puppets of the Democratic Party club, and we gained power. What did this do for us? We stopped gentrification. How do we stop gentrification? Because the city council has the power to determine what's going to be built on city-owned land. The mayor will tell you that. So if Donald Trump came to my beloved East New York community and on Alabama Avenue wanted to build Trump Towers, he has to see the Black Panther. He has to see the Black City Council member. And if I say, no, you're fired, he cannot build. So we were able to use the area median income as a measuring tool for what is affordable. In our district, the area median income is $36,000 for a family of 3. Most of the developers came into our district wanting to do $80,000 for a family of 3, $100,000 for a family of 3. This is how your neighborhood gets gentrified. So those families with those salaries are usually white families and some middle class, black middle class, and they were mostly white. So we lost populations in other communities around us because of gentrification and the area median income. So brothers and sisters, what we did is we said to the developer, we will tell you what's affordable. And we made them build according to the income band of my neighborhood. So right now, in my 12 years in the city council, my wife's 6 years in the state assembly, and now 6 in the city council, we stopped gentrification. When I came into office, 67% of my district was black and 16 was Latino. Now 73% is black and 19% is Latino. 95% of us are black and Latino. No gentrification. 12,000 units of housing and not one apartment is market value. Not one. All 12,000 meet the income band of my neighborhood. And it's because the land use committee in the city council, when something comes in a local council member's district, they ask them, what do you want to do with this project? And if I say no, the project dies in committee. If I say yes, it comes in. That's power. Didn't even have to demonstrate. Didn't have to scream and holler. Just say no. And we were able to stop gentrification. Walmart was trying to come into our community. We said no. Stop Walmart. Some of the sellout blacks in my neighborhood were saying, we need the jobs. I said, I already got jobs for you in other enterprises that are going to let you unionize and pay you a decent wage. You don't want Walmart. That's a rolling plantation. You're not going to make no money. You can't unionize. You have to go on Medicaid to get any help. Double it. You don't want Walmart. And Walmart stopped paying off black leaders. All the barons against development. And what? We stopped Walmart. Not crazy about ShopRite or JCPenney or any of those stores, but they came in instead of Walmart, and we made them hire the people in our neighborhood, pay them a decent wage, and let them unionize and get health care. Walmart, we stopped. We stopped the big giant, Walmart, because why? We had some political power, a little taste of power. So in addition to doing Africatown, we need to get control of the local politics in our community with black, conscious, committed black people to the liberation of our people. Not those that the machine is putting forward, not those that have sold us out for their personal ambition, but those that are independent and committed to our people. So I wanted to come before you to congratulate you. I wanted to come before you to say that we also build $70 million worth of parks renovated. 3 new elementary schools came into our district, $80 to $110 million, because we were involved in the local politics. We won those seats. I sat on committees in New York where they were building new schools in white communities. I said, oh no, you're not. Bring some to my community. Got 3 of them. I have a brand new $12 million youth center. I told one developer, if you come into East New York, we ain't signing on to anything. That's right. I said, we ain't. Not we are not. I said, we ain't signing on to anything unless you build a youth center. And they have the power to do that. We have a 2-story, $12 million state-of-the-art youth center run by the youth in my district, get them off the street and into jobs. And we will own that after the 30 years, the duration of the loan that the developer's involved with us. He don't care about the youth center. As long as I can find the money for operating costs every year, about a couple of $1 million, that's our youth center. We own it after 30 years. These are the things that we can do. We talk about education. I sit down with the chancellor, gave him a big book by Malefa and Sante and said, we want Black history in our schools. We want science labs and we want computer labs. I have even music studios in some of the schools. And we make sure that we don't allow them to pit charter schools against public schools and have our communities fighting over that. Public schools, public money is for public schools. So I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, but get the power. Get the power. The mayor may be nice to you now and working with you, and you may have a nice coalition, but the bottom line, get the power. There's nothing like having power to determine the destiny in the Black community. That's what the Black Panther Party in this first point in the 10-point program, we want to control the destiny. We want the power to control the destiny of our beloved Black communities, meaning we want control over all of the institutions that govern our lives, the hospitals, the police especially, the education system, transportation. We want to control the social, political, and economic institutions in our neighborhoods. We can't be 70, 80, 90% of the neighborhood. We don't own the land. We don't own the businesses. We don't own the hospitals. We don't control nothing. That's why what you're doing is so great. Tulsa, you know, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they own everything. And then whites created some nonsense and wind up killing, murdering our people, burning them down for envy and jealousy. Same thing in Rosewood. If we did it back then, Marcus Garvey did it. If we did it then with those meager resources, we should be doing no less than what you are doing in Africatown and what we're doing in New York through the political system. Thank you very much. I always leave with this. Capitalism is very difficult to fight. I understand the military might, and I understand the economic might of capitalism. But the African proverb says the best way to eat a big capitalist elephant, one bite at a time. And don't try to swallow the whole thing. A journey of 1,000 miles, you can walk 1,000 miles, take it one step at a time. And finally, life is hard if you take it by the yard, but it's a cinch if you take it inch by inch. All power to the people. Keep up the good work. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Charles Barron. Sorry, I kept saying Rogers. My notes were wrong, and I was looking at my notes and not the other thing. So thank you so much, Honorable Charles Barron, for all of your work out here over all of these years. Literally, all of that you just said was so invigorating to me. I know it was for so many out there in the audience. I see you guys all in the chat just getting fired up for this work. So I am really excited, you guys. This next presenter is just near and dear to my heart. I so love her and her fiery passion. She comes with a no-nonsense attitude to everything that she brings. She is here for her people, and we so love her. Miss Kashayla Rogers.
Peace. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited and honored to share my version and my experience of the state of Africatown. Thank you so much to Trey and Curtis for creating the space and for the kind words. Thank you, Trey. My name is Kashayla Rogers. I'm currently a student at the HBCU, Norfolk State University, studying political science. Though I call Seattle home, my Black organizing experience began in search of community, belonging, of culture, and liberation from whiteness in Seattle. And so My exposure to the work of Africatown really began as a youth ambassador with ACEI. And so what many folks don't realize is that Africatown is a multifaceted organization that represents so many different areas of focus and objectives, all with the common goal of advancing Seattle's Black community. And so Africatown's work includes land acquisition, education and innovation, entrepreneurship through Black Dot Underground, and the latest edition, which is King County Equity Now Coalition. And so King County Equity Now, as many of you know, began as a coalition of Black-led organizations in Seattle that arose in the wake of the reform, the revitalized Black Lives Matter movement. And so King County Equity Now, for me, represented accountability in Seattle, specifically to the Black lives in King County, in and around King County. And so my role shifted from a youth ambassador to a youth organizer last summer, curating events that create visibility around King County Equity Now's list of demands, which included, which were centered on equity. And so King taught us that equity is ownership and control over the resources, land, and access to capital. And so our events really highlighted and mobilized folks to focus on those demands. And these events included organizers and speakers, educational entertainment, which Trey calls edutainment. And so it's really, our events really were a showcase of the best and brightest in our community, of our resilience through music, spoken word, art, poetry, all of the above, dance, you know. And so young people, such as myself, utilize tangible skills while creating change within our communities. These skills included brand voice. What is King County Equity Now's messaging? What is the narrative? It included marketing, social media influencers, outreach and community engagement, event planning. And so we curated a number of events during the summer, which were the Juneteenth celebration, Umoja Fest, 4th of July, which was on 23rd and Union. So just a number of events that brought out thousands and thousands of our community members to really highlight the Black lives in Seattle that need to matter and still do matter. And so from that, there are a number of accomplishments that we gained. One being activation of the William Gross Center, divestment from Seattle Police Department and reinvestment into community-based organizations, reimagining public safety. And so all of those things were really what shaped my experience this last summer. You know, this was a movement this is the largest movement for Black lives that I have ever experienced in Seattle. And so there was a sense of pride in Black Seattle specifically that was restored. And I'm super excited and thankful to be a part of such a change. So thank you. Again, my name is Kashayla Rogers.
Yes. Kashayla, you don't come on here and give me all them body chills, honey. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. You guys, for those of you that don't know, I mean, Kashayla just been holding it down, and she continues to hold it down out there in Norfolk, Virginia. And you know, I'm just elated. I'm all excited. I'm like proud mama moment, proud big auntie, because I love her mama. So proud big auntie moment for me to see Kashayla on her dean. That's what I'm talking about. With your pay the fee shirt on, you're ready. I love you, little sis. You guys, here is the moment that we have all been waiting for. I know so many of us, we are here to hear about literally the state of Africatown. And I gotta say, as something that I just wrote in a newsletter that was asked of me, that I am so grounded by the work of my brother in community, KY King Garrett, who has, I always get emotional when I want to talk about this, but just been holding it down for so many of us, educating so many of us, telling us the books to read, keeping us grounded. Africatown is so much to so many of us. Thank you, Brother Wright King, for your work. We are ready to hear you speak. Here it is, you guys. KY King Garrett, President and CEO of Africatown Community Land Trust.
Oh, peace and good afternoon. Greetings to everyone. This has been a powerful, I mean, I think you heard the state of Africatown is that, you know, we have all that we need to move forward in the direction that we need to move forward. So, yeah, I just want to start by just saying, you know, thank you for all of those that have paved the way for us, for all of the elders that have joined us, for all of those that have, you know, not made it this far with us, who have made their contributions and on whose shoulders we stand. Big shout out to Brother Curtis Calhoun, the real life coach, Curtis Calhoun, one of our project managers. I mean, behind the scenes, making this thing work. Booty Muyo with Sixer, also behind the scenes on the tech. Our hostess with the mostest, Treyana Holiday, always, you know, she's our voice in our face every day on the morning update. If you're not getting your news from the morning update with Converge, I don't know where you're getting your news from. Also, you know, definitely shout out to the folks that are carrying the stream, King County Equity Now, the Africatown, Seattle, Time for Awakening, and Converge Media. Respect to Honorable Don Mason for being the foundational co-convener, Black Community Impact Alliance, for support over the years. I think I had a nice presentation, but it's a little challenging with the technology. So we'll see how it works out here. So the state of Africatown is part of the city of Seattle because Black people are part of the city of Seattle and have been a part of the city of Seattle for almost 140 years before Washington was even a state. And the state of Africatown is in the spirit of Sankofa. It's a time for us to look back at the year behind us as we prepare to go forward into the year before us. We started last year. Let me see if I can get my screen up.
Just click that monitor to the right of the microphone. And then when it pulls it up, go either to Windows application or Chrome tab to pull up your presentation.
Is the presentation up?
Yes. Put it in presentation mode though.
It's up. Is the presentation up?
Good to go.
Thank you. All right. So, yeah, we started off 2020 with a focus on Black health and wellness. Little did we know that a global pandemic lay ahead of us, one that would disproportionately impact our community in ways that we have not still wrapped our minds around what the long-term effects will be. Our Black Health and Wellness meetup met every month, and the focus was around bringing together culturally responsive Black health and wellness practitioners across the spectrum of wellness, of life, from maternal care to senior care, bereavement, loss, grief, fitness, and everything in between. Nutritionists, so that we have the resource and we can begin to design our own community-based healthcare system while we're also working to challenge and disrupt and recreate or make the larger health systems more responsive to our unique needs and our well-being. In April, we authored a letter calling for a $1 billion anti-gentrification community development acquisition fund to begin to repair the damages that have been done by the policies and practices that we endured in our community, being there for all of those decades, over a century. And these are policies and practices that have been well documented as being harmful from the federal government all the way down to the city government, including covenants, redlining, urban removal, renewal, all of the policies that we know about. And then May 29th, I think it was May 29th, George Floyd was a victim of a terrible, horrendous public lynching. And the nation, our communities, and the world reacted. On June 5th, there was a first mobilization and rally and teach-in on 23rd and Jackson, which you see here reflected. And this is where the demands of the King County Equity Now coalition was put out. The coalition was birthed from the campaign and grew to be a powerful developing organization and entity in our community to advocate for equity across all aspects of life where we are being denied such equity. And the call was very clear, which was for land, access to capital to develop the land, control over the resources that are supposed to impact our lives. It was pay the fee, free the land, and equity now. 2 days after that first initial event, the mayor responded, I guess, to the initial call for $1 billion with a proposal of $100 million a year for 10 years for the Black community for programs. We know programs are important that we define, but again, our call was for land, institutional development, access to capital so that we can continue to be a part of the community where our parents and grandparents have been. On June 12th, a post went up after our calls for land, including the Fire Station 6 to be turned over to become the William Gross Center for Cultural Innovation, which had been in development for since 2012 and an official part of the City of Seattle Equitable Development Initiative since 2015 with the previous mayoral administration. And there was a announcement from the city after we attended a meeting that we were not actually invited to, but it was in our community about Black lives with the mayor. And so we attended, and community expressed its desires. In the following, I think, day, it was announced that the fire station would be transferred to become the William Gross and fulfill that vision of a innovation, economic, and cultural epicenter, resource center for the development of our community, our cultural innovation zone and district. That has progressed. We have not received ownership, transfer of ownership due to various bureaucratic issues, but we have entered into a 99-year lease as the first step to access and make this space useful and bring it to service of our community and the equity goals. And the next step is to actually get the deed. So we do have the keys, but we do not yet have a title and a deed. But we are moving forward. We're activating the space. Recently received the construction permits to begin the renovations so that we can get this open and serving our community as soon as possible, bringing the brilliance together. And then the long-term goal is to actually add housing to the site as well, so that we will have a campus, again, supporting the innovation, cultural and entrepreneurial development and economic development of our community, and making sure that we have an ecosystem of Black tech, innovation, business development that is supporting our children from pre-K through workforce and entrepreneurship, and then coming back to the community as an investor. Later, it was announced that the community was able to successfully mobilize to stop a block of predatory development. We put out a call for a moratorium on predatory development that was inconsistent with the equitable development goals of the city that have been talked about so much. And when the city didn't act to enforce such, the community did. And so it was successful in stopping a square block of what was proposed to be market rate development on the site of what was previously the Cairo rehabilitation and senior living space, which unfortunately, after struggles in the Japanese community, they had decided to sell it. And now this property, due to the efforts of our community saying no, as we were told by our Honorable Charles Barron, saying no, we are in contract to acquire this property currently to develop affordable housing, equitable development space for our community that would actually honor the legacies of the Black community, the Japanese Pan-Asian community, and Indigenous First Nations community. This would be an unprecedented project to incorporate cross-community in the redevelopment of this site. Again, William Gross and the Fire Station 6 will become the epicenter of our cultural innovation district, focused on activating the genius of our community to be sustainable in the economy. This is what we've been talking about, and again, these things are moving forward. So each year with the state of Africatown, our goal is to come back to you and let you know what progress we've made, what challenges we face, what our path forward looks like. Something else significant that happened this year at the Liberty Bank building, when we talk about our real estate projects and the progress again, we were grateful to see Communion, the new restaurant on 24th and Union in the Liberty Bank building, opened by Christy Brown Wakoma, Damon Bomar, honoring the legacies of Thompson's Point of View and Miss Helens. They were here at the State of Africatown last year talking about it, and this year the ribbon was cut in the midst of a global pandemic. And definitely our hearts go out to the Wakoma family on the recent loss of one of their patriarchs. And so we were not able to have them with us today present, but we are definitely with them in community. As far as the Africatown Plaza continues to move forward with the development, the design, you remember before the demolition of the Midtown site, we had what was a temporary activation to project a vision of what should a space be that welcomes our community, that celebrates our community, that honors our community. We said, imagine Africatown, and we took some of those ideas that the community gave us and we put them into a temporary installation with the outdoor living room and the mural and the pop-up events. And some people said, well, why would you do that if the building is going to be torn down? And it wasn't temporary only in that form. It was a preview and a projection onto the future. And so now as we're moving forward with the Africatown Plaza, we're getting into the time of bringing our art program so that we bring our brilliant creatives locally, nationally, and internationally to tell the story of our community, our journey to make this a place and a destination, a place of healing. We know that buildings don't build community, people build community. And we know the trauma that has come with our community being displaced and scattered in the ways that it has. Like Dr. Mindy Fullilove wrote the book Root Shock and what it means to be uprooted, and the pain that comes with that. We know that there are members of our community that don't even want to come back to the Central District because of the changes that they see and how it has impacted them, and how families were stripped of their homes, how families lost their homes. And so we want to make sure that the space that we're creating is a space of gathering for people to come back to, for people when they come from our diaspora around the country, visiting or just moving to Seattle for the first time, they can come and be connected. And our community that has been here, that endured all these various different harms in the community, can reconnect in a healthy way, not only to the space, but to each other. And so that we create a place of healing and using arts to do that. And so we're getting ready to launch our art call, working with Wanawari to bring this brilliance and creative genius to the corner of 24th and Spring, is what's being developed. One obstacle is that even though we continue to make progress, and the project was actually awarded $640,000 from the Equitable Development Initiative of the City of Seattle this year, we still face challenges of redlining when it comes to financing. And so recently we found out that the Washington State Housing Finance Commission would not be funding any projects in this area, in the Seattle area, where all the projects that are Black-led are located, where Black people have endured the redlining and all of the policies and practices that disenfranchise our community for decades. And for them to make a decision like that only furthers and perpetuates inequities, which is in contradiction of the goals that the governor has put out, Governor Jay Inslee has put out in his recent equity agenda. And we are grateful that he also put this project, not this project, but the K-Roll project, into his budget for this year. But we know there are a lot of forces that are still working to stop our progress in this way. And so this is an opportunity. If you go to the King County Equity Now site, there's an opportunity, a space for people, community, to make their voices heard, so that projects like Africatown Plaza, Ethiopian Village, Elizabeth Thomas Homes by the Equity Alliance fame, led by Evelyn Allen, would be funded as an act of equity, justice, restoration, and repair. When we say pay the fee, we're speaking about repair rations or reparations. Another project we have brought to you and made progress on is we're not just focused on only creating affordable rental housing. We know that's important to be able to create that, and we can create it at density as a mitigation factor for the displacements that's happening as the prices are escalating. But this was a community of homeowners, of high percentage of home ownership. And we want to get our community back to homeowners. So with this particular project, the Village Gardens project on Yakima Street, we are partnering with Homestead Community Land Trust and Edge Developers. And with that project, we were able to get, it's going to be 14 units of affordable townhomes. And our community that has been displaced or faces displacement will have priority in accessing these affordable home ownership opportunities. And when I say affordable, I mean in the range of $300,000, which is unheard of for a new townhome in the Central District in Seattle, where most of these projects are, these homes are going for $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, which is out of the range of many of our community members who work every day, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. And so this project is an opportunity and an example of what will need to be scaled up so that we can have people coming through Liberty Bank Building, Africatown Plaza, the new Bryan Manor, and then coming into home ownership and being able to stay in the community when it's time for them to make that transition to ownership in their lives. And we were able to get $1 million plus for Black contractors to build this project in the community. And so as we look at the state of Africatown, we see the positive, we see the challenges. We really more focus on opportunity, like our sister Trayana said, keeping that mindset of leveraging and tapping into the resilience of our great ancestors, and keeping to go forward, but being mindful of the barriers and the obstacles, also learning from the past, again, with the Sankofa model. And so we know that 2020 was a year of seeing things pretty clear and seeing the realities of our condition when the pandemic hit and we saw how vulnerable we were on so many levels. We started with healing. We know that in order to heal, to build or rebuild, we do have healing and rebuilding of ourselves and rebuilding of our bonds, just in our families, in our communities, that have been fractured through many practices. And so we've had our mayor, Durkin, acknowledge that this racism, this damage, this disenfranchisement has been systemic. And that's not a small thing to come from a mayor who is also a former federal prosecutor. And so if we have systemic damages and harm that's been done, it's only right that action be taken to make whole. And we know the gravity of the damages. And so we know it's going to take bold actions. And she has spoken to the need for reparations. And we know that she will not be coming back to office. She's not running for re-election, but this is setting a stage for the next mayor to understand that this has to be continued. We saw in this year a presidential election pretty much delivered to the point of our sister Vanessa Smith Garrison, founder of Girl Trek, letting us know the power of Black women. And we saw the power of Black women organizing and what happened in Georgia. And basically, you know, the fact that Black people delivered the White House. What shall we get in exchange in our communities? And we thank a brother Majestic from Pittsburgh and sharing some things that we need to be looking at and focused on. We heard the importance of analyzing the community superstructural factors, and the need for collaboration over competition from Brother Majestic. We heard our sister Erica Ford with Life Camp speaking to the work that they're doing there and how paralleled it is to the work that's being done on the ground here by our very own Coach Dominique Davis, Community Passageways, United Better Thinking, Bill 206, Choose 180, many people doing that work here, and we just need to collaborate and exchange our brilliance, bring this to our community. We heard from our Eritrean, East African community, which is very large and powerful in this area as well. And we have to, again, break down those silos, and we've been continuously building those relationships towards greater working unity and solidarity. And ultimately, we heard from our young leader, Kashayla Rogers, giving her perspective on where things have been and where they need to go. And ultimately, I appreciated the words of Elder Honorable Charles Barron, that we have to get the power. We have to control our local politics so that we can control the resources that are meant to impact our lives. And we also have to beware of the tricks that they've used to set us back in the past, which is, as he stated eloquently, neo-colonial puppets or overseers. We know that every time we were striving to get free to improve our quality of life, there were those that also had the same complexion, but didn't have the same connection and didn't have the same direction. And they wanted to keep us on the plantation, get us back on the plantation. And we've seen and experienced and are witnessing some of those attacks happening from some of the same institutions that have played these roles in the past. We see the system leveraging our skin folk who are not functioning and operating as beloved kinfolk with us. The African proverb says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can't harm you. And so we know how these things have worked in the past. We have the recent movie about our great warrior, community organizer, thinker, young warrior, Fred Hampton, and how someone gave the blueprint to his home and maybe drugged him to make him vulnerable. And we see these same type of forces happening right here locally. So we do have to be mindful that these attacks, and we have to come together stronger to prevent us from being set back, because the system reacts to minimize whatever gains we have, and they think long term. And so we have to keep focused on maximizing, staying focused on equity in every area we've been denied. We have a long way to go from Jim Crow apartheid, which is the current reality when you look at the statistics in Seattle and Martin Luther King County and Washington State, to a new normal rooted in equity. We've heard Build Back Better, but we definitely need to be focused on Build Black Better. And that's from the internal, and that's also dealing with the systems which we finance through our taxes. They take the taxes from us, and it's been built through our wealth over centuries. And that's Black focus. And often we see a bait and switch. The mayor said $100 million to go into the Black community, and then later came and said $100 million for BIPOC. We don't know what that means for the Black community. And when we're focused on these issues to address our unique problems that have been systematically perpetuated on us, then we need to be focused with unique solutions. So when he says Black, we support our indigenous and any claims they have on their land, and others that need assistance, but not to be put into a competitive aspect, is which they try to do it through divide and conquer. Reparations is not welfare. Reparations is a debt that's owed. And so we must be aware. We must be ever vigilant, because we are seeing some malicious disorganizing, people attacking this very strong movement that is growing and gaining momentum and setting the agenda from symbolism, taking it from symbolism to real substance, and staying focused on the land and institutions and control over these resources, and not symbolic gestures and flowery words that Seattle is very good at presenting out to the world. The eyes of the world are watching Seattle, and Seattle has an opportunity to lead. But again, the same forces that sabotage Marcus Garvey, the same forces that sabotage the strong gains that were happening in the 60s, those forces are at play right now, right here in Seattle, in relationship to the movements that we're doing, in relationship to what Africatown is doing, in relationship to what King County Equity Now is doing. And so we must, again, stay focused. Seattle can lead. It's led in many other areas, but we have to disrupt the apartheid Jim Crow that currently exists and build a new normal rooted in equity. The best way to honor our great Black history is to make our history that we are writing every day, right now, as individuals and collectively, count for our people. So with that, I say thank you. It's been a great day. I know we are over time, and I will end there. Thank you.
Okay. I think it was having an issue. Here we go. My camera is starting. Thank you so much, Y King. Always, what a great summary of all of this amazing work happening on the ground. And I know that we have a limited time with our representative, Kirsten Harris Talley. I want to throw it right to you. I could say so much about what Y King just said there, you guys. And I see you guys all in the chat talking about how beautiful and brilliant this work is. Again, as Y King says, tap in, don't tap out. And with that, I want to introduce Representative Kirsten Harris Talley, KHT, as we know and love. And honestly, please give us your response to what you've heard today at the State of Africatown, 8th Annual State of Africatown.
Representative Harris Talley, you have to click the camera and the microphone.
So thank you so much for those kind words, Trey, and thank you for your guidance, Curtis. I've been able to turn on the audio, but not the visual. It keeps blocking me from turning on the camera for some reason.
Okay, we can hear you.
We can hear you though. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'll keep speaking then. And I want to thank Africatown for inviting me today. And I'm thinking of my comments less as a response and more as a reflection of accountability to everything that's been presented here today. I kept reflecting today how wonderful it is that you all found a way for us to gather online from the safety of our homes. Of course, we know that the pandemic in this moment has elevated the dual pandemics that we experience as Black people with COVID-19, of also experiencing the response to that in our Black bodies and what it is to have racism in every system in that. So appreciate that you all found a way to gather us for this 8th annual event while we're staying safe at home with our families. And want to thank every person who spoke today. I've had the pleasure of sitting in reflection since 10 a.m. when we started the day together today to really hear what is happening. I had the pleasure last summer of walking with so many folks in marches all of last summer to bring forward and make possible so much of what has been shared today about the pressure that community and those of us who stand shoulder to shoulder with community have been able to bring forward as assurances from decision makers that they're going to be responsive to our needs and work and keep us accountable to you is so important. I really work to hit the ground running. I've only been in the job as you're representing you on the state level as your state legislature in the 37th since January 11th. We're coming up on the end of only 6 weeks of the work. But I immediately, upon learning that I'd been elevated and elected to this position last November, immediately met with community to talk through how are we going to come in to this work? What is it that we need to elevate? Whose voices need to be heard, and how will we keep that moving? That started over the summer with conversations with the governor's office around the vision of Black land acquisition and Black ownership and what it is to move away from ideas that government ownership and providing access to Black people was enough, but that we have to invest in Black community ownership and on all levels, whether that's the place you live or the business you steward and provide for our community. And I was glad to see that those conversations that we had with the governor's office over the summer elevated $13 million for a lot of that work, including the purchase and development of the Kiro Center, which is, part of the vision of what it is to expand the places that we have elders and others have affordability in housing so that they can stay in place where they are. And I also want to reflect on all the conversations today about how small businesses are continuing to adjust and grow in this moment about how folks are continuing to build the vision for our children, despite what our education system has put in our way, to continue to inspire and elevate their brilliance, what it is to do that with youth voice and elders together, stewarding that so that we can build off the legacy of what elders have built before us, and also listen to the vision of what is possible from this moment forward and into the future from the young people who are directly impacted, and quite frankly have some really savvy, sophisticated ways in which they're thinking about building community power as well. And I love Africatown for being a place where those bridges are always together, that people can meet on and bridge that work. For me, the considerations on the state level is that we get to do three things at the state level. And in my role, I've really been working to steward those three things. We can build really good policy that actually responds to the needs of Black people and addresses, quite frankly, the racism in so much of our policy, and approaches with an anti-racist lens to undo those harms with good laws. But also part of our job that's often unseen is standing in the way of bad laws that could surface and find their way being passed and find their way onto the books. Really so much of what the Black Members Caucus, I am proud to have walked in with 5 new Black members in our state legislature. We now have Senator Tawana Nobles as the only Black voice in the Senate, but also now we have 8 Black folks, for the first time, the largest coalition of Black legislative voices we've had ever in our legislature. But I never forget that for the history of what it is to be at the state legislature for our state, the very first assembly of the Washington State Legislature included Representative Bush, which means there have been literally Black voices as part of our legislature since the beginning. But with the 9 of us representing you all now, we are 9 legislators of only 25 since that first assembly in 1889 who have been allowed to represent you. So it means a lot to have our Black Member Caucus now giving voice to what policies we're going to elevate and which ones we're going to stand in the way of that harm our communities. What you've seen at the state level is a whole set of conversations that we've never really had robustly at the state level before. And so many folks here today have been stewarding these conversations on the city level and county level, but we have not had the bold policing justice conversations at the state level that we should have been having, but we're having them this session. I was proud to co-sponsor with Representative Jesse Johnson from the 30th, a community oversight bill. Councilmember Zay Halai, who spoke earlier today, also came and gave testimony on that bill. It allows us to construct civilian oversight over police proceedings and police forces, including sheriff's offices throughout the state. It is a policy that's been beyond needed, and that was led with Black folks from throughout the state to create the policy and steward it. I think it has a lot of viability. I encourage folks here to continue to watch that bill. It has moved out of appropriations into rules, which means we now need to make sure that it moves from rules onto the floor, and that we vote it out of the House and continue to ask our senatorial colleagues in the other chamber to also support that work. We also have a lot of policy centered on juvenile justice. We have 8 facilities at the state level for juvenile incarceration. We are working with leaders in the Black Lives Matter movement throughout the state to close as many of those facilities as possible and move away from those incarceration systems. Right now, there's a bridge work happening there to move to electronic monitoring systems. But what I need you to know, and what many of us know, is that that is just a bridge, because we do not want to move into a system where we are still incarcerating youth in their own communities and homes with electronic monitoring. What we need is to move totally to no incarceration of youth. And so that's a bridge piece as we continue to work to close as many of those facilities as possible as quickly as we can. But I have also written a proviso and will be continuing to do work for us to move away from electronic monitoring at all as a quote unquote solution to policing. It's not a solution. It's an extension of the new Jim Crow, and we need to keep an eye on making sure that that does not be being used as a way to reduce costs but increase our incarceration system. So we'll be continuing to work with community partners on that work. But the other piece I want to talk about is this crisis of housing and affordability. Our upside down tax code is also a racist tax code. It's a tax code that is set up to keep those of us who have built up these communities because of restrictions and covenants and red lines and are now being forced out of these communities from having our say and for carrying most of the tax burden in this state. And while so many of the wealth, literally of the largest wealth in the world, is here in our backyard, and they're not paying their fair share. It means that we're paying almost 18% for what it is to be taxed in this state, while rich people who make up the upper 2% of our state pay only 3%. We're paying 6 times as much as they are. And all of our systems are dependent on that revenue. And then they come back and tell us that they don't have enough money to invest in our communities because of this upside down tax code. We need to get it right side up, and we need the folks with wealth to pay their share and to relieve the tax burden that we carry. For that reason, I've brought forward Bill 1494. It's an anti-displacement property tax exemption that would exempt up to $250,000 off the assessed value of whatever home you live in. Because I know what I saw in 2006, 7, 8, and 9 was the accelerated pushing out of Black people and elders out of the Central District and our communities that we have built. And I continue to see us being pushed further and further south. I am proud to be in a district where I get to represent now the epicenter of the largest concentration of Black families in Skyway, but I know that used to be the Central District. And I know that that's a reflection of the trend of gentrification that's happening because of displacement out of people's homes. And if we can give folks relief with their property taxes so they can stay in the homes that they raise their children in, our elders can stay in the homes that they've paid off and still find themselves struggling with those property taxes, that's what's really going to start addressing this crisis of the upside down tax code and the crisis of folks being displaced from our communities. So I want you all to know that I will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with community. I will continue to steward this community vision that you all have built. I am still learning these tools that we get to wield, and in every opportunity I have, I will bring those tools to you all so that we know how to wield them together. And I appreciate this place to hear from you, to hear what you already are building. It's beautiful. I know that we have so much that's put upon us, and this is a space where it is clear every year that we have the tools to thrive on the other side of it and that we're building them ourselves. So I just have such deep gratitude for the invitation today, for the reflection to your Words by King, which I know is built with the words of all in community who built this day and are building the work. And I look forward to continuing to doing this work with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kirsten Harris Talley. We so appreciate what you've uplifted today. I see folks in the chat learning about the bills that are out there. It is so important that we're engaged. We appreciate you in these 6 weeks already stepping up to the plate of what it really means to not only be one of our elected officials, but to continue to stay connected to the work that's happening on the ground, so that can inform how you move there in those spaces in Olympia, or maybe virtually for now. But we so appreciate what you said and your presence here today. Thank you. I have added into our event chat to just try to do a check. I know we're way over time. We were supposed to be done by 2 o'clock, but we really want to know if folks still want to participate in breakout sessions. We can do a gauge to see how many of our speakers are still available to participate in that level. I'm looking here to see if folks want to do that. I know this is a Saturday. We want to respect your time, but we also wanted to have that out there as an option. Let's see here. Some folks maybe respond. I'm just trying to make sure. By King said he is here to connect with folks. If folks still do want to connect, I think what we can do, Curtis, is the option is there. You guys would click on sessions on the side of your screen so that you can join the sessions. And for any of our speakers who are still there, we can continue on and take the next 40 minutes that we have in this software to open that up. Go ahead, Curtis.
There's a poll up there. They allow you to do a poll, so I just put it up there so people could just respond to the poll. In polls, if you're on the stage, it says polls.
Yes.
Okay, and they can hit yes or no. And then those who are here can go to those rooms. If nobody's in there, try to find a room with somebody in there to chat with. If the facilitator's not in there.
Okay, we are letting the polls tell us again, you guys see, we are so rooted in community. We're like, you guys let us know. I think that there are some people that do want to do it. One of the things we could do is, let's see here. Curtis, do you think it's feasible for us to be able to leave it open for those who do want to join? And then whoever doesn't, they could just log off. How does that sound?
We're on until 3 o'clock. So just, yeah, if you want to go to the sessions, you can go now. If there's nobody in there, just find one. You can go in and out of the sessions freely.
All right. Thanks, you guys, again for being here for the 8th Annual State of Africatown. Please join the sessions at your leisure and the ones that you would like to. We so appreciate you guys being here. And thank you to all of the amazing guest speakers and presenters. What a fabulous way for us to like kick off, you know, the State of Africatown, the 8th Annual, and honestly continue in this work. I'm so honored to